So I originally got this shirt over 3 years ago and avoided wearing it until today because I thought it would be funny. And it was. But yeah, hi everyone, Manuel here, and I just wanted to say a few things before we start today's video and include a general warning for some of the footage you will be seeing in today's upload. As the title suggests, you'll want to skip this video altogether if you're expecting a distraction from whatever hijinks is happening at the inauguration, or if you generally hate anyone talking politics. I won't be offended. Just click off and I'll see you on the next video if you didn't already unsubscribe. But yeah, we'll be coming back to Friday uploads this week. Yeah, for everyone else, don't worry, I'm gonna skip most of my rant for the end of the video. But I do want to talk a bit about what you'll be seeing today, considering this was all filmed over a year ago, or actually 3 years ago, in Laguna Beach, California, during a protest made up of white nationalists and Nazi sympathizers under the veil of holding a rally or vigil for, and I'm quoting here, remembering the victims of illegal immigration and refugees, which was ironically organized by an immigrant member of the Proud Boys, who also believes that we shouldn't allow migrants from his country anymore. But yeah, given that context, it's kind of hard to set up for this video without while being apolitical. Though, as promised, I will be sparing you all most of that until the end of the video. So feel free to just skip that part altogether, or don't, and appreciate just how cringe I am or liberal for wagging my finger at Nazis. But for right now, if you're trying to remember where you might have heard the name Proud Boys before, it's because they most recently made the news at the time of recording. I don't know if they did some other shit before then, but they most recently made the news after several of their members were arrested for their part in a failed coup attempt, or better phrased, an insurrection at the Capitol earlier this year. I say as though that wasn't, less than 2 weeks ago. So with that prelude or rant out of the way, I hope you all enjoy, or actually appreciate this video. Again, this will mostly be untouched, as I did want to get this out in time for inauguration, and also still make a Friday upload. But you will be seeing some news clips along with more graphic footage that I decided to include, just because it is context to what happened that day and gives a better sense of the atmosphere, which will undoubtedly get me penalized by the algorithm, as though me saying Nazis wasn't already enough. But I want this video to better serve as a reminder of the space and time I documented here. After all, isn't that what us photographers are trying to accomplish in our work? But yeah, I'll save the rest of the soapboxing for the end of the video, but yeah, nothing else to say. See you all on the other side. So that was the protest. I look really dark. Let me see if I can do this backwards. Okay, hi. So that was the protest. As you can see, it was pretty non-violent. There was a few scuffles here and there, but nothing like what the media says. And oh look, there's a cop. Shit. Alright, so let's get the fuck out of here before I get arrested.
Barriers were placed around Laguna Beach's main beach in preparation for an anti-immigration rally and counter-protest. The hope is we won't see the same violence that broke out in Charlottesville last weekend. Police expect hundreds of demonstrators and counter-protesters. The plan is to keep the two sides separated, with about 100 officers in cars, on foot, and on horseback.
I don't know if you can see or hear them, but they are up there. By the time I arrived, police stood in between the two sides of the vigil, leaving me to wonder who was who from afar. As I'd realized later, the America First vigil was heavily outnumbered by counter-protesters. It was all really weird to see in the same space where people were playing volleyball only a few feet away.
A drone in the air and police on the ground looked over the America First rally in Laguna Beach to make sure tense moments like this didn't rise to anything more.
Hey, this is coming from an idiot who lives on the left coast, dog. Why don't you go to middle America?
He's telling me to get out of here. That's a freedom of my right to be where.
During the crash in Charlottesville, this car drove through a crowd and killed Heather Heyer.
So who is responsible for that girl dying in Charlottesville? I'll tell you who I think is responsible. One, she's responsible for being there.
With the memory of Heather Heyer fresh in my mind, I was a bit uneasy walking around the crowd in the sand, especially since the only protection I brought was a brick called F3. Still, I pressed on, a GoPro strapped to my backpack just in case anything happened. I searched for a break in the line of police, trying to make my way into the heart of the counter-protest. Now, I don't know what I was expecting when I found my way into the actual protest, but it definitely wasn't this. Yep, a live band. There was a live band playing at this protest for most of the event, making me feel like I was in a Pepsi commercial instead of an actual protest. Not that I'm complaining, I just wanted a shot at Pepsi.
Suddenly, boom, people protesting. Join the conversation sign says it all. What conversation? You'll have to join to find out.
Also, pro tip, always ask the people in masks if they're okay with you taking a picture.
Once President Trump was elected, people were thinking, oh, he's racist against Mexicans, he hates this, he hates that, he hates all these different races. He's not racist. He's just not for illegal immigrants. They're breaking the law.
Organizer Johnny Benitez, who admitted to being an immigrant himself, posted this on YouTube yesterday.
We oppose immigration from anywhere in the world.
Talk to regular politicians, a guy like, for example, Travis Allen, and he says that, he's like against sanctuary cities, but I know for a fact that he wants more legal migrants. And that's a big problem, and that's the one thing that we can't compromise on. That's the whole issue. And so traditional conservatives are generally okay with that policy, and that's absolutely not acceptable to me or anyone that I would consider a part of that movement. Well, I'm a legal South American immigrant, and I'm also white. But so you can't really say, or should we keep white people or should we keep brown people from coming in from different countries? Because I wouldn't say that anybody from South America should be coming anymore.
As it was really nice seeing the Laguna Beach community coming out to denounce racism, I wanted to avoid capturing photos of the signs alone. After all, I have the next 3 years to get photos of fuck Trump signs. Side note, I make patches. Second side note, sometimes you'll see my patches at protests.
Thanks.
Pro tip number 2, don't hug Nazis, not even if they're crying. Then you're a literal Nazi sympathizer, and you don't want to let Brad Pitt down.
Nazi ain't got no humanity. They're the foot soldiers of a Jew-hating, mass-murdering maniac, and they need to be destroyed.
Now, Instead of showing you more video of signs and people's butts, you're going to see a mini series of photos. And for those who want to know, it's all Tri-X 400 pushed one stop. I'm sorry, but this is super romantic. Cops on horseback, multiplied by a sunset at the beach? Come on. So if you're only here for the photos, this is the last one. After that, I document the protest to end. As I said earlier, the cops had done a good job of keeping the two groups apart, but once a few Trump supporters wandered into the counter-protest, out came the mace. If you're ever hit with mace, milk is supposed to help, as I learned from a few street medics on scene, providing it to anyone who got hit.
Hey, brother! Can you have more of that stuff? Yeah, thank you.
No, sir. Thank you, brother. More? Hey, you need to open your eyes. I know her.
Some chick just starts spraying. What the fuck? Damn.
Enter scuffle number 2, with Antifa trying to defuse the situation. Police started surrounding the counter-protesters, making some uneasy, until everyone was uneasy.
Against the hate, against racism. Come on, fist bump me. Show us the love. Yeah, we have a camera. We're not across here, right?
Yeah, we're just waiting for the light. Kind of confusing because I parked over there. Where to get there?
Attention everyone, I'm Lieutenant Tim Fudge of Laguna Beach Police Department. Your conduct is a violation of California Penal Code 407 unlawful assembly. I command you in the name of the people of the state of California to disperse, and if you do not, you shall be arrested for violation of the Penal Code sections 407 unlawful assembly.
Alright, so they just declared an unlawful assembly and I'm getting the fuck out, so let me stab on the way to my car. So here we are 3 years later with many in the media still shocked to see that Trump's base actually followed through on several months worth of threats, despite, the kidnapping attempts or the failed attacks on political figures. Still ignoring just how entrenched Trump's base is on some QAnon conspiracy theories, all while online personalities and the GOP attempt to minimize or outright deny their part in propagating that level of madness. They're instead choosing to focus on the reach of big tech and bemoan censorship when literal Nazis get booted for breaking TOS, as though all these calls for action and constant talks of culture war didn't lead to what we saw earlier this January. But yeah, I'm sorry. You don't get to act like a bakery being forced to make an LGBT cake is going to be the end of the world, then pretend your party didn't plan or celebrate what would have been an attempted coup if any of these brain-dead morons actually knew what they wanted beyond 4 more years of Trump. Again, this is all just context to what you saw, and despite me knowing that these types of videos are never popular and end with me losing subs and gaining hateful comments accusing me of further dividing or further widening the divide in this country, I felt it was important to document a time when the media continued to downplay right-wing extremism and instead create clickbaity articles about the intolerant left, Antifa, and the fabled blue-haired SJW, never mind the overwhelming evidence that the alt-right term was nothing more than a rebranding of white nationalism. They basically play dress up in suits and play the PR game to the media and, enticing curious minds with half-truths before leading them down the alt-right pipeline, which exists here on YouTube, by the way, and leads them to these white supremacist ideas that, despite them avoiding the phrase in public because they know it won't go over well with most normies, because then they'd have to admit that the policies and ideas that they'd support would lead to the eventual deaths of people who look and think like me. But yeah, with all that has happened and all I'm sure will continue to happen, thanks to people, still trying to ignore the rising fascism in this country, if not claim the Democrats' liberalism is somehow akin to the GOP's shared interest with literal Nazis, I decided to revisit this upload 3 years later, leaving most of the original video intact with, just some higher quality scans of the film and some added context via CBS News stories to really underline what this rally was about and, what was being protested. Because as happy-go-lucky as the original upload was, the subtext here is eerie to look back on, especially when you remember Trump's fine on both sides comments at the time. And I bring that up not to, give Biden a pass, because I am incredibly disappointed with his response to all of this. I mean, my standards for the guy is low, but holy shit, pushing this idea of healing and moving on when none of these people have been held accountable is not my idea of, a proper response to fascism.
I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. If you pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that's a blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull a knife out, much less try and heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
And that is important to note when these people have zero issue with lying to the public about, what they actually believe. As you saw here when Johnny and co. Claimed to only be against illegal immigration, when really and I'm going to include this in his own words because there's always some dumb motherfucker who claims I'm reaching in the comments.
Well, I would like to secure our cultural identity. For me, the biggest issue would be ending immigration, like at least a 50-year moratorium on immigration.
So with all that ranting out of the way, I hope you were all entertained by the retrospective look at the alt-right movement and can, remember a time where white supremacy wasn't normalized and Nazi sympathizers were easier to identify. I realized this could be seen as bias considering when I chose my cuts and, during certain segments, during certain segments, but I wanted to better document what led to this point in time. After all, isn't that what I said in the beginning, isn't that what us photographers want to accomplish? Don't we want our work to mean something? Personally, I've always been drawn to politics since high school, and though I'll spare you all the details, it should come as zero surprise that someone who dresses the way I do, grew up in the environment I did, listening to the music I do, wouldn't also photograph what I knew growing up. Again, I realize these videos never do well, especially when YouTube always tries to demonetize them. If not, just hide them from the video. 'Cause you don't want this kind of negativity there, but this shit still matters to me. And, well, I don't think there will be many people looking back on videos like this, especially when there's much better ones on the topic. If this can help, one person rethink racism in this country and or inspire a younger photographer who, thinks photography is just photos of gas stations, pretty girls, and, landscapes, make them think about experimenting with photojournalism and or document the racism in their community, and maybe even create some beauty out of an area where tourists would lock their doors while driving by, I'll be fucking happy. Because those are wasted years I spent thinking no one would want to see this. Because the truth is they do. But it's often years later when they're looking back asking, how did we get here? Whatever. That's my video. Stay safe, everyone. And finally, fuck Donald Trump. Fuck white supremacy.